None of the cases will not be looked at. None of the cases will be turned away or discounted on face value. One thing we've learned through running task forces is the more strange the story is, it's probably true, as sad as that is. So that's what we have on the law enforcement side. With that, I'll introduce Director February.
Good morning. Just lower some things here.
Nothing's
Not so you can see my face. I'm so short. I will say, as Chief Leolucci indicated, all the individuals mentioned here today at this press conference are considered innocent until proven guilty. So I just want to make sure I can stress that is the case. As Chief Leolucci has indicated, unfortunately, our prosecution team is busy. The more we divert resources to investigate and prosecute human trafficking, the more we find. This increase may also be a result of a more informed community, as Chief Leolucci had indicated, and Attorney General Reyes. Over the past 3 years, the Attorney General's office and the partners you see here that have filled the room have been tirelessly training both ourselves and the community to recognize human trafficking. The result is more accurate reporting from our community and more reporting generally. And I can assure you our prosecution team is ready. Section Director Russell Smith, Prosecutor Dan Strong, with the support of Michelle Rasmussen, Ruthie Pedregon, our new victim advocate, and Elise Reichenschneider, as well as the Secure Strike Force, the ICAC Strike Force, and the entire Justice Division. We are dedicated to ensuring justice is served and to send the message that human trafficking is not acceptable, whether it be forced commercial sex, forced labor, and especially the trafficking of children. The message I think General Reyes has indicated, or I know that he's indicated, and we support and we work tirelessly toward, is that if you traffic in Utah, you will be prosecuted. Our prosecutors work closely with state, local, and federal partners to accomplish our mandate and offer ourselves as a resource to every jurisdiction in whatever capacity and however we are requested to do so. I think it's important also to recognize our success is even more evident with the victim service component that has come into place with the trafficking grant, the human trafficking grant that we've received. That resource is through the Refugee and Immigrant Center. And they are with us through every stage of the process to assist the victims, whether it be through the investigative process, through the prosecutorial process, and even after conviction. In fact, they followed one of our victims all the way through graduation, in which she graduated just recently from Horizonte with her high school diploma. Incredible story. So they deserve a great amount of gratitude and thanks for seeing them through. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to now turn it over to Missy Larson, our Chief of Staff.
I really should stay up here, Greg. I'm just going to turn the time over to both Leo, Chief Lucy, and Greg to answer any of the questions about the investigations and what's going on right now with the cases that we talked about today. So if anybody has any questions.
Is the open mic session with the chiefs, is that later on? Let them come up
How many cases are still pending, are getting ready to go to court, or what's based on the 90 to the 120 day sweep, as it were? Where do they stand?
At various stages.
Okay.
Some are still in the investigative stage or close to being considered for prosecution, and some are in the prosecutorial stage. As Chief Leolucci indicated, some have been bound over and are awaiting trial, which is their constitutional right to do so.
So, you flashed a lot of statistics up there. You have, of the 71 people arrested, so far 2 have been charged, is that correct, or more?
No, it's more on the 2 that have been charged, those were specifically human trafficking charges. Many of the others that were in the ICAC investigation where the 71 arrests were made are at various stages of wrapping up the investigative process or presentation to the prosecutors. I don't know, have any of those gone to court yet?
Stages, yeah, in beginning stages of the court process, yeah.
Okay, so the 71 arrests, how many cases roughly does that represent? 71, or did you make multiple arrests each case?
On the human trafficking cases, often we have multiple arrests. Most of the ICAC cases, those represent an arrest. That 71 cases represents a separate individual.
Compared to 5 years ago, for example, how much has this problem grown? Have you ever done a sweep like this deep?
Certainly with ICAC, they have. This is not an abnormality for them. These numbers are not shocking to us on those types of cases. With regard to human trafficking, I don't know that we even would have recognized it 5 or 6 years ago, to be honest with you. We may have charged prostitution, we may have charged Johns with crimes. The education has been very intensive in Utah since 2009, since the legislature really took the bull by the horns and created the task force. And as more partners from federal, state, and local law enforcement come on, the education is spreading. It's intensive, we're doing it all the time with these other agencies, and we're getting more and more reports and better intel and more accurate information, quite frankly. I guess the quick answer was 5 years ago. I'm not sure we didn't even charge human trafficking.
Well, can you explain that more? Why, you know, I mean, 10 years ago, we say, oh, that's a Tim, or that's a John. Why is it now human trafficking? Was human trafficking back then, or are they doing something different today?
Well, one thing that's happened is with better statutes now we're on the books to charge human trafficking. Director Fairbrother this week drafted some of that language. The support of the current Attorney General and the focus put on this certainly has had a major impact. I would say, I want to speak to these guys, they'll be real good if I do, but we are much more educated in what we're looking at from a law enforcement perspective now in this arena than we were 5 years ago. And when you're going to go after the head of the snake, those are hidden pretty good. The low-lying fruit, the young women being trafficked or grabbing Johns going in and out, that's traditionally what we would have been looking at. And it needs to be done as far as the Johns. It still is being done by these agencies, but we're focusing on trying to shut down organizations now.
And I would say it's a team effort. Frankly, the prosecutors ourselves need to be trained and become experienced with the intricacies of human trafficking, enforced fraud, and coercion, and how to put a case together and present it to jurors. And I think that's also an evolution. The willingness to charge is a difficult charge because most of the conduct that occurs within a building. It's not something that's apparent. It's not on the street. It's something that is behind those doors on most occasions. And to prove that and to find the evidence to prove that is very difficult.
Mary, can you address the fact that trafficking isn't necessarily a taken situation where someone's abducted and swept across jurisdictional lines, and a lot of it, like the Rax case, they're trafficked within their own home due to forced fraud and coercion?
No, absolutely. And Chief Leo Lucy indicated earlier that the crazier the story, the more likely it is that it's true. We just can't make that up. I always speak of the Cleveland case, the Charles Ramsey case, in which that individual reported the abduction of 3 older women who had disappeared some 15 years ago. And if that individual had come into your office, if you were law enforcement, or prosecution, or a victim advocate, or a service provider, or just a general media person, would you have listened to Charles Ramsey? Would you have followed up on Charles Ramsey's story as unbelievable as it could have been? And in fact, it was true. And we've taken that mantra and we've applied it to cases such as the Rax case, in which we had identified one victim early on, and the story was so implausible, so untrue, it couldn't possibly be true. But at the end of the day, we had 40 victims lined up, ready to testify against Victor Rax, at which time we terminated his name. So These cases are incredibly difficult, and the reason why, with the support of Representative Romero, it's so important that we work together, both the judicial, the executive, and the legislative branch, is because we just can't identify the case that's going to come around the corner. And so we continue to look at the statute to ensure that we can charge those persons that are committing these heinous crimes, that we can go after the conduct that is targeted towards the children of Utah and to those that are engaged in forced sex and forced labor.
How important is the public see something, say something?
It's, like I said, these cases aren't happening within the law enforcement building. They're not even happening really on the street. It's not something that is apparent. And as I indicated, we've spent the last 3-4 years vigorously training throughout the state, both ourselves, law enforcement, prosecution. We even go to businesses, whoever will hear us, and we talk about trafficking. And even through them, they report back to us, and we're like, oh my gosh, that could be trapped. And so we expand our investigations and we begin to look at those areas. So the community is invaluable. In fact, they're really the most valuable asset to our investigation, our prosecution, because we're only a few. The community is many, and with their assistance, we can really work toward eradicating human trafficking in our state.